We must go local. We must move from the macro to the micro, from social media to community, local community, from faraway friends who we may or may not ever see again, or in some cases for the first time in person. From then to family and to local friends, people we can wave at, people we can trade with, talk to in person. I have been guilty myself of indulging on this traveling and friends all over different continents. But things cannot be and be the same, cannot go back and be the same. I cannot have a girlfriend who is from Northern Europe and lives in Italy where we are together. That's just not sustainable. It was ever, it wasn't ever sustainable. But now it is less even. Interesting sound. Maybe I should move here. Yeah, because I don't have much else to say, but I have this strong certainty that we must change, and I have to change personally. Again, from the virtual community to the actual real community, from the macro to the micro, from the remote to the local. And it must start now. Forget about the frequent flyer miles, the crowded airplanes where virus transmits. Nature is telling us to change. The very mechanisms that are so destructive are the ones that nature has targeted. Air travel, crowded conditions. Now a boat comes by. It's the moment of vengeance. And then I'm gonna move, go under my tree by the river because it's getting brighter and louder, and I will have more thoughts there, and maybe we can have a one-to-one comparison of thoughts generated here in the more civilized place and the ones under a tree by the river. I am by the river now, but not under a tree. More about how to be local and engage locally. Here we are at the camp. No human sounds besides my voice. No machines, no edgers with a two-cycle motor. Two-cycle engines should be verboten. The entire principle is that they burn oil. Well, we want to talk about this before doing the second part. This is supposed to be the second part about going local. But why not? Maybe it's related. Two-cycle engines lubricate the piston during combustion. That means that they burn oil, not only gas. When you put when you put fuel in a two-cycle engine, you also must add oil, and that oil has the purpose of lubrication. So there's no separate oil pump and all that complication, in principle complication, but then what happens is that you must burn that oil with the gas. So there's a lot more pollution, and we really don't account much for the pollution of two-cycle engines because they are motorcycles and lawn mowers and edgers. But now the noise is not here, and I cannot stand the noise, not only because of the decibels. The frogs have also decibels here, but because of it brings me back to thinking about how wrong it is to have engines like that. And then I feel like it's an intrusion. I feel like it's a passive aggression. I feel really attacked and violated in my space when people make noise with machines and TVs and music. And here's the frogs. I can sleep all night with very loud frogs. I had really loud frogs once I created a pond, and the frogs took over it, and it became so loud I had to close the window at night because it was really loud. But it wasn't unpleasant, it was just loud. And I think the difference between loud and unpleasant and loud and pleasant is not even loud, just pleasant and unpleasant sounds. It has two components. It has the psychological component I was talking about before, where human noise is a form of aggression, or I can perceive it, and some people may perceive it as a form of aggression. In many cases, passive aggression. But also, I think there's a physical reason. The more I listen to the sounds like frogs, listen to that, the harmony, the richness of harmonic frequencies in that sound. I really would like to compare it and run a test and experiment and see how much richness there is in harmonics in that sound as opposed to an engine. There goes an outboard motor on that lancha going down river. It has more like a bass frequency and not much more on the way of harmonics. It's much less musical. A songbird usually, obviously, is musical, but so are frogs, and I think it has to do with the harmonics in the sound. The river is basically at my feet here. It takes an effort to set camp. I'm getting older, and at some point I would like this effort to go into things that are more permanent, like a garden or fixing a house or just doing my experiments. Right now I will be comparing the sounds of harmonic and non-harmonic sounds. All these discussions are an introduction to what should be part 2 of going local, and I don't have much to say about that besides the clear insight and clear decision that I must go local myself. And I have been distracted a lot and bouncing around, traveling, having friends all over, and then some of those friends become virtual friends, but then it's not the same as a real person going out for a drink or a walk or going to an art exhibit, and I can do all that locally. So my first task is to find a community. Nature will be nice, like a place like this. Could I have a community here? It's harder, and this is a place that is people are tough here and rough, and this is a little bit too isolated for me. I would like ultimately my son to visit me, and family, the little family I have, to visit me, and but I had to have more of a sense, okay, this is my community now. What can I do here? Is there anything I can do while I'm here? I'm going to find out about that. And the pandemic, meanwhile, continues to rage and is demanding from us that we change our ways. Almost everything I hear is an effort to get back to the way things were. In the United States, the federal government is throwing money at sustaining corporations as opposed to workers and displaced people and the ill, because it's all about going back to what it was, stock market values, investments, and those planes flying around. I got a notification from an airline telling me that they are practicing social distancing, and by that they're going to try to avoid occupying the middle seat in coach for their planes, which, yeah, there's not much of social distancing. We're all going to get sick ultimately. So going local, going to your community, find a community that suits you. And I think for me, a university town would be good to have resources like a library and talks and the opportunity to interact with people and even maybe take some class. And I am a perennial student. Then some natural attraction would be nice. So that's the reason I got this Congaree National Park thing 2 years ago, I guess it was, or even less than that. It was in 2018 that we went with Lily to Congaree National Park on the way to Asheville from the beach in South Carolina. And why not a place like that, and then be part of a community, go to a church, get to know people, help in the community, garden, give to the neighbors produce or fruits, dig my own grave. I was kind of dreaming about that the other night, where I go around my property and dig a 6 foot deep hole for my grave, and then plant a tree instead, and do it over, and always have a hole ready to be thrown in, because I want to be buried in the ground naked in my own property. That's going local. Feed a tree. And really just abandon social media. No need to post anymore. Everybody's too distracted, and what I see there doesn't have depth almost in every case, save for a few people who maybe I should contact and directly, or find their books and read books. The old books have much more insight, much more condensed insight than all the randomness and musings of different people on social media, especially the ones who believe they know a lot more than they do. So I haven't been very active on social media, and I think this is a Good Friday, 2020, April 10th. It's a good time to commit myself just not to post anymore, and to stop looking at things like Instagram and Facebook, which I haven't been looking at much, and then the friends, all the long distance friends that there isn't a chance to visit in person, or there's not, it's all a very remote chance of visiting them in person, just let them go, suddenly let them go, and slowly replace them with local people, and obviously keep keep family close. And in my case, that's basically Jason, my son, and Georgina, my half sister, and Lori, because Lori is family. Lori is my sister. She was my wife, but she's the stepmother to my son, and she has been for me there many times. Many times. I cannot count how many times. And even this kind of travel, this kind of experience wouldn't have been possible without Lori having provided a base. I abandoned that base in 2009 and didn't come back. When did I come back? I guess in 2010 I swam by, and then I was gone. 2012 I was briefly there, and then I was with Renee, so I didn't go back until basically things went down south with Renee, and she took me in once when I had my broken hip, and then I was almost 1 year between February 2018 and 2019 when I went to the retreat last year. I'm digressing a lot. This is becoming a lot of very personal stuff, but it's all about going local, so it becomes very personal. There aren't that many formulas besides replace social media with local community, replace virtual friends with real friends, replace posting pictures with making pictures, gardening, co-creating with nature, with neighbors. Embed yourself in local communities, from a softball team to a church to a political group, to a book club, discussion groups. Oh, those are awesome, book clubs. I always like book clubs, and people like me in book clubs. And then I will be talking to real people in the same language, and not a virtual thing, a WhatsApp talk, conversation. I'm sorry to lose dear friends that I got to know really well, and like Trin in Italy, and Nerea in Spain. Tiger in Belgium. Rosa, who is she's family too, but in Uruguay. But then she's not family anymore, as she says it. And Renee, she's borderline family friend, and I think I had to really ask her honestly what's going on, and how we should communicate in the future, if at all, and maybe it's not a good time to talk about that, but I was trying to be general, and I went back again to my own individual concerns, but move away from the social media to the local community, and from virtual friends to real friends. Concentrate on family. Family is blood. Be sure that that's a strong contact. Visit them often. Be within driving distance of family. These times of pandemics, we can always drive and visit family as opposed to taking a plane. I had to check. I think it's like 10 hours from Columbia, South Carolina to New York City. If Jason remains there, maybe Jason will come to a place like South Carolina for his virtual job. I don't know if he really needs to live in New York City, especially after this pandemic. Again, I keep going to the local, but that's the personal, but that's what it is. Co-create shelter, fix a house, or build from scratch. Why not? I always had this idea of thought of building pods, micro houses, so I don't need permits to build. That means very small constructions. I think usually it's like 300 square feet. So the equivalent of 15 feet by 20 feet. Start with one of these pods and then add more. One could be a cooking place with a fire pit, and there could be hammocks like this one hanging in the different spaces. These hammocks this hammock has proven really amazing. I have used it, touch wood, without legs. I have used it over 30 days now. I thought it wasn't going to last this long. So co-create shelter, co-create food by gardening, chickens, live off the grid. I really like doing that. I'm a specialist like that. The guy with the weed whacker seems to be chasing me. He's doing a property closer now. So food and shelter, the two most essential activities, co-create in those areas with nature and especially with friends. It could be a project to have neighbors help with construction. Get people going into the construction of these pods. I remember that those amazing pentagonal structures, tetrahedral structures that had used these union members to connect connectors to put the thing together. That would need 3-4 people to put together one of those places, maybe even in one day, and do it in a community way. Create a group of people who go around putting this together. and maybe using all this social media just for the purpose of getting together, but locally use signs, do garage sales, go to garage sales, go to estate sales. Maybe we are not going to be shaking hands anymore because of the viruses, but more reason to get to know people from some distance. I am kind of like that. So away from social media to real community, away from virtual friends to real friends and family. Co-create shelter, co-create food. Write, read locally, volunteer at the schools, even go back to teaching, or at least or volunteer just for reading Spanish to kids. And be a member of the community. Oh, and think of all the community as common interests, from hobbies to sports and politics and religion, to community as common living area, common town, common state, common college, community as common beliefs, common desires for change. Yeah, go local, baby. Go local. Locally grown, locally created, locally loved. Well, the energy under the tree is so much better than under that construction over there. God, it may not be 50 meters, but this is a different universe here. I have to hang in here as much as I can. It's just sprinkling now, a little bit of rain. Funny we call it sprinkles. Sprinkles. This light rain in Spanish is chispear, which is chispa, which is sparks. It's sparkling right now. Está chispeando. But the tree keeps the rain from getting me too wet. Just a few drops to make it through. I have my bag in a plastic bag, and can always put the hammock up or put the tarp out, depending on how bad it gets. But I see blue sky downriver, so this is gonna stop pretty soon. Well, I think I have covered as much as I can this local versus universal, virtual versus real, external versus internal, macro versus micro. Disentangle yourself from all these externalities, from the dish TV, from the YouTube videos. Yeah, this good stuff. I have enjoyed myself, but compare watching funny videos, no matter how funny they may be, like Key and Peele. God, I had to talk about Key and Peele at some point. But compare that to being with friends making jokes. Create the joke club. Create a laughter club, a laughter circle. Oh God, the laughter circles. Yes. Laughter circles. We need those to laugh around in a circle like we were doing in Puerto Vida. I call that going local. I noticed that some of my virtual friends have kind of disappeared during this pandemic and the lockdown. You will assume people have more time for virtual connections and WhatsApp conversations, but Martina in particular kind of disappeared. Nerea, I think some people instinctively are going into the local refuge, my house, and I hear this from other people. Trim was telling me that one of her groups, where there were several Estonian women who chatted, two of them have left. They just don't seem to be happy with the conversation. She felt that there was a narrower of interest. Maybe that's happening. People want to have their own tribes now, and that makes sense. That's a form of going local. You have your own tribe. This genetic thing that everything goes, we have to be very careful with it, because some of us believe that, oh, it's so cool, we go to a bar with all kinds of people. Not really all kinds of people, usually white, educated, Euro-American types. We also become precursors to the invaders that come after us, and sometimes we facilitate globalization. We take seats on planes for cheap, but they are the seats that they're not, somebody's not paying that much money, but we are still taking the seats, and we cramp together. We enable ways of production all around the world that don't belong there. Backpackers, I always have said, they're followed by Starbucks or Burger King. So there is a palpable, real effect right now where people are moving away from the virtual friends into interior mode.